All right, Robbie, Triano, and I are back. It is the Locked On Big 12 reveal of our ballots for first team all Big 12 football preseason. Robbie got a ballot. I got one. Josh Neighbors here. Robbie Triano of SiriusXM. Josh Neighbors here, host of Locked On Big 12. Robbie, let's just jump into this. All right. So let's do players of the year. Let's start there. The big guns, the big awards. I'll show mine. All right. So my offensive player of the year, I have Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State. My defensive player of the year, I have Siaki Ika of Baylor. And for newcomer of the year, I have Dillon Gabriel, the quarterback from Oklahoma. You look like you might have something a lot different than mine.
Yeah, I respect all of your picks. I have three completely different picks in this group. So for my reasoning for this is, I think for the ballot and the first team players, I'm putting going into the year who I think is the best. And for the awards, I'm putting who I think is going to actually win at the end of the year. I have no problem with any of these picks because I think offensive player of the year, I think it's a two-person race. You could throw in a quarterback here, but I really think it's going to running back this year. I have Bijan Robinson. You have Deuce Vaughn. And I don't know if I can really debate your pick. I mean, I think Deuce Vaughn is going to catch a lot of balls. I think he's going to run a lot of balls. I think he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. So I can't be like, oh, my pick is wrong or your pick is wrong. Deuce Vaughn is a great pick because of what he has. I think that offense is going to be much better this year. So I respect the pick. Defensive player of the year, I love Siaki. I love Apuika. I don't actually know which one to say. So, Siaki
is the one that's listed, I believe. I guess Apu maybe is a nickname. I don't know.
Yeah, but for me, I'm actually going to Kansas State here. I have Felix Ndike Azuzama. I'm probably butchering that name, but he is.
I believe it's Felix Ndike Uzama.
Okay, I'm going to need to know that by the end of the year. But I mean, like watching his tape, he is electric. I think he has the opportunity to get more statistics because I think they're just going to need him on the field a lot more. And for Baylor, I was listening to some interviews. There's one with 24/7 Sports, him and Chris Hummer, Dave Aranda and Chris Hummer. It's really good. After you're done listening to this in Big 12 today, go to that. But it was interesting because I think he wants to rest him a little bit more, or just like have him when he's on the field be a little more fresh because they have the depth. You know, they have Jackson Player as well. So that's a player that I think he is a top 3 candidate for this award just because of how dominant he is. But I'm not sure of the statistic wise how he's going to do. And Dillon Gabriel, we can have a conversation about this as too, because I think you will probably be right about the newcomer of the year, but I'm projecting who I think will be the best at the end of the year. And no, actually I want you to guess. Who do you think I put for newcomer of the year?
Let's see what, give me a hint on position.
Is quarterback.
Quinn Ewers?
I did put Quinn Ewers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I was just saying, that's so let's go with the offensive player of the year first. Like this is a splitting hairs thing. So you've heard my take is that at times last year, Bijan Robinson was a little worn down towards the back end of the year. Heck, he missed the last game of the year, right? And what do we see in that game against Kansas State? Well, Roschon Johnson had an awesome game. While Bijan is awesome, and there is a step down when we put Roschon in the game, it's not big enough to where it's like a problem. Roschon's a really good player. And so I actually think they can use that balance more to make sure that they stay fresh towards the back. I think, Robbie, to me, the best asset this team has for a team that was sputtering in the end of the year, for a team that sputtered at the end of games, is to use your variety, keep everything fresh, go different directions. Do not become dependent on a certain player. Sure, that TCU game last year where they rode Bijan Robinson, there are nights where you might have to do that. But if you can't afford to spread it around, I think they can. That's going to be there. Look, we have great numbers, sure. Deuce Vaughn is a 4-down back. Every single play, he is a threat to do something, no matter who the quarterback is. He had a revolving door last year of quarterbacks. And so while Bijan, no doubt, is the most talented out of the two, Deuce is so accomplished and refined. And he knows the kind of player he is. And he's a really smart player and knows, for a little guy like that, he takes a lot of touches and takes a beating and plays a lot. Plays a lot. And maybe that comes back to bite him this year. But to me, he's going to have a massive season. I know they have a couple more weapons, but he is going to be Adrian Martinez's best friend there. No doubt about that. And look, Colin Klein knows the deal. You get the ball to your best players. And this guy needs to have the ball in his hands at Bud. So I think, accumulation is going to be his best friend. And look, Brees was awesome last year, but Deuce was right there, in my opinion, too, right up there. The team just was not as good. What would have been like the 6-6, 7-5? I forgot. It was actually kind of ended up right where Iowa State was. But yeah, right. I think this is Deuce's year to do it. And I actually think it might not, this is not a knock on Bijan. I just think a bit more variety could be the key for Texas, and helping keep him fresh is a key. So that's why I went with Deuce. There is, I even forget who their backup is. I totally forget who it is because you don't see him a whole lot, right? Being back
DJ Giddens, he has 0 snaps.
Right. I think he's a freshman coming in. I believe it's
red shirt.
Yeah, red shirt freshman. Yeah. So like that's the whole thing is it's like playing third base behind Chipper Jones if you're in the Braves organization forever. Like, sorry, you're just not going to play, right? Play behind Cal Ripken. He's never going to play. So that's kind of why I went that way. But look, nobody's going to be shocked if either guy hoists that award, the trophy, I guess, if you will, at the end of the year.
Right. No, and that's very valid. And I think like it's just splitting hairs here because I think it could be 1A, 1B. You can flip either end. For me, for Bijan, it was just, I think that this offense is going to be so great, and I think he's going to be the best player. So when it comes to the best offense, I think he's going to be the best player. And your worries of like they're going to, put in Roschon more. I'm not as worried about that because I look at what he did with Najee Harris, and I think that Bijan is a player up to that caliber of running back. Obviously, what he did with Najee Harris at Alabama, I think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to get 25 to 30 carries each game. And I think what is the difference between Kansas State and Texas is I like Texas's vertical threat and their ability in the pass game a lot more. I think there's a lot more weapons for that to open up the game for Bijan. And I also think that, like we've talked to Bijan on Big 12 today, I think he has a lot of pride. And I think a question that was asked to him was like, you've seen the running back position, diminish over the past couple of years, especially when the NFL draft, like, how can you be the running back who goes in the first round? And he was very prideful of like, I want to do everything. And I see this position, the value of it getting worse and worse. So I think he really wants to prove it this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Heisman candidate. And if I were to pick which one would more likely be a Heisman candidate, I think it's Texas, because I see, as much as I love Kansas State, I think Texas has the ability to have a better season as well than Kansas State. So both unbelievable picks. If you had a quarterback, I would be shocked just because I think that's a little bit of a more uncertain position in the league this year. Because
it's easier for the quarterback, but it's uncertain about who
it's easier for the quarterback to win, but I don't think there's a quarterback I can fully be like, you know what, that's it. We can put Dillon Gabriel, but that is really a stretch over two known commodities, proven things in this league, like Deuce Vaughn and Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. On the Defensive Player of the Year award, so for Siaki Ika, you're right. The stat thing is not going to be there for him. It's just not because of the way that it works. Playing the defensive tackle position is just not one, normally where you accumulate a ton of statistics the way that an edge rusher would. This is going to be more of a, does the media see the performance from him? And look, I think this is a guy who's got a potential to be one of the, a first round pick next year. And people really seem to love his potential. That's why I'm going with that. But I have no disagreements with you going on the more, accomplished also pass rusher, but also stat, that'll be more of a statistically impressive position. And if their performances are similar, Uzama will probably get it because of the numbers for him will probably look better. It's also a more, I guess it's an easier position to assess, I think, for people like us. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, I picked Siaki because we've seen tackles get a lot of recognition. I mean, about last year, the Jordan Davis, Georgia, like how much recognition he was getting. But yeah, I think yours is more likely. I just going with the guy that I think might be seeing him top draft boards next year.
Yeah, 100%. I think if the draft were to happen, I think he may be a little bit higher than King Felix. I'm not totally sure, but I mean, both great picks as well. I just think Felix has the ability to be like the star of the league. Like, I think when people talk about Kansas State, I think they're going to talk about him and Deuce Vaughn. And I think I think he's just the best defensive player in the league right now. I think he has the ability to dominate and, wreck so many teams' game plans. So I think he's the best. And it's just like, it's different because there's not like a Jalen Petrie this year. There's not like a surefire, like, this is an amazing defense player, like the players for Oklahoma. I think this year is, I think it's going to be the year of the offense back in the Big 12. Shocker. We have 1 year of defense and I'm already like, this league is defense. No, I think the offense is going to be much better this year. And I think the reason it is the defense is down. I think the defensive talent is down or just more uncertain to me. But I think the two that we have selected are the two of the most sure things we have in this league. There's also Will McDonald as well.
Yes.
You have Colin Oliver at Oklahoma State. But linebacker and defensive back, I'm not very sold on this year. I think if you have a defensive player of the year, they have to be an edge or defense, like D lineman, like Apuiga.
All right. So we're going to hit on, the Newcomer of the Year award as we do our ballots, because I think the conversation of quarterback is an interesting one. Today's show is brought to you by our friends from rockauto.com. Ever increasing number of makes and models. Now impossible for you to go to your local chain store and get what you need. Don't endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning of, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? Don't wait for the person behind the counter to order the parts in their computer. Go to rockauto.com. You can choose to save as much as 30, 50, even 100% more at rockauto.com today. Go there, see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they know we sent you. Amazing selection, always low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com. All right, so you went with Quinn Ewers for Newcomer of the Year, Robbie. But did you also put Dillon Gabriel as your first team quarterback?
Yep, and I know how confusing it sounds because it's like, wait a minute.
People split votes all the time on, you'll see it in the NBA. Like one guy, I'll put first team all NBA center, Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic.
Right.
Like one gets the MVP, one gets center, one gets defensive player of the year, one gets first team all NBA. So not totally uncommon.
Yeah. So for my justification for that, if everyone is pissed for my preseason vote, if you're pissed about this, I think you need to take a walk. But if quarterback, I think Dillon Gabriel coming into the league is the best quarterback, and just because Quinn Ewers is the most uncertain, I think, out of any of the starting quarterbacks in the league this year, because he hasn't done anything. He has all this hype, but once again, he's not done anything. But when I do the awards, I'm fast forwarding ahead. That the preseason is the people I'm like, you know what, watch these players to start. You'll find out about the emerging players throughout the year. The awards is who I think is going to be at the end. I think Quinn Ewers has the ability, because of the offense, to just put up a lot more statistics. I think he just has the ability to shine a little bit more than Dillon Gabriel. Yes, Jeff Lebby is great. I like Texas's weapons more than Oklahoma. I don't think that's necessarily a shock if you're an Oklahoma Oklahoma fan upset by that. Like, you lost a lot of talent. And you can't say that you have better offensive talent than Texas right now. And I think looking at our list right now, I did not have a Oklahoma skill player when it comes to running back and wide receiver in my first team. Marvin Mims did not make my list. He was number 4 wide receiver, but I think Texas has the ability to put up a lot more stats. But Dillon Gabriel, I think, is the best quarterback coming back. I think we may see a surge for Spencer Sanders, but I don't think he's going to make the final team. He's probably going to make second team. I don't think you can vote Quinn Ewers on the first team right now or second team. You have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's also really interesting because Spencer Sanders is like the reigning player. He's the reigning first team all quarterback, right?
Right.
It's interesting because you see some lists in Athlon, with Athlons right now, they have him at number 1. Look, I think, I own beachfront property on Spencer Sanders Island. That's not
a good beach. There's trash everywhere.
Yeah, there's trash everywhere.
The water's brown.
And they promise they're going to come and clean it up.
And
they never do. Or they do, and then the next day it gets dirty
Dog
again.
Poop everywhere.
Right. And sometimes it looks really nice and great. And the storm rolls in and messes it all up. I've got Dillon Gabriel there because I think he's a more accomplished, better quarterback. More polished. Do I think Spencer Sanders has a bit more talent? I actually do. I actually think Spencer Sanders, as like we've seen, the Notre Dame game, right? Notre Dame game, just letting it all hang out. Amazing, right? We've seen times where he's actually been a pretty good game manager as well. That's the problem, though, Robbie. He has it in him. We know he has it in him. We have seen him do it. We've also seen the complete opposite direction. I know Dillon Gabriel has not played a snap in the Big 12 yet. I can trust him more. I can. Some of you fans might think Dillon Gabriel is more talented than Spencer Sanders. I don't think I'd agree with that. But I think he's a better player at this point in time than Spencer Sanders is. More dependable, I would say. So, yeah, that's why I'm rolling with him. Anything, I mean, Bijan, Deuce, I think you and I have the same 5 skill guys. Also, my fullback, like we have to see who's going to be playing H-back in this conference.
There's no Jeremiah Hall this year. There's no
Jeremiah Hall. The one guy you had mentioned from Iowa State, it was
Jared Russ.
Jared Russ, yes. So he is, I might switch him out, Braden Willis. They may get mad if I put a tight end on the H-back spot. I'm not really sure they will. I just kind of, I feel like maybe I should got a second tight end in there. And Oklahoma uses H-backs, but I'm not sure this offense will, so we'll see. Worthy, Johnston, and Hutchinson. The only other guy who could make a push was Mims, but I think, those guys, like in terms of talent, production, skill level, and like kind of, I think they're there. Marvin Mims is right behind him, but these guys all get the edge right now. Xavier Worthy, otherworldly talent, right? This guy is right. He is the talent of all talents. Quentin Johnson has had the maybe benefit, but also definitely the detraction of having to play with Max Duggan, who is a vertical passer or nothing, right? You see a lot of those Quentin Johnson games where he gets over 100 yards and he had like 2 or 3, 3 or 4 catches. That is not a Quentin Johnston problem. That is a quarterback problem. Let's see what he looks like intermediate passing game. But this is a guy, Robbie, that NFL draft scouts are very excited about at the wide receiver spot. Xavier Hutchinson, reliable, if you will, kind of in a way. And now entering his 3rd year, I believe, at Iowa State after he transferred in. So, yeah, I would say that he is going to be a main target, a security blanket, if you will, for Hunter Deckers this year. Once again, Marvin Mims had a better season, but I think Xavier Hutchinson deserves a nod here on that one. So there you go. Those 3, and Ben Sims at tight end. Any objections here? Any thoughts?
Nope. We have the same list for that. I did try to push out Xavier Hutchinson. I can't, even though I think that Marvin Mims will have a better season. I just can't. I can't discredit Xavier like that. He's earned to be on the first team. Quentin Johnson, he is on my top 5 list of most exciting players to see this year, just because I think him in that offense with Sonny Dykes, it's just he has to be a major point. And in the spring game, they even used him in the running game, which is like, spring game. But like the fact that they were even trying that, I think they understand he is by far their best player when it comes to the offense side of things. So I'm really excited to watch him. And obviously Xavier Worthy is just a beast. But I think if you have any other 3, it has to be Marvin Mims in there. If you have someone else, you're trying a little too hard.
I feel you on that. Let's go offensive lines. Like we're you and I are not the best people to assess about offensive line play, so we have to kind of use our knowledge, our context clues and whatnot. Steve Oliva was on there last year from TCU. Obviously, you really know Connor Galvin, Zach Frazier. I put Anton Harrison because people think he's got really high upside. I think that's the guy we're gonna be watching this year on OU, and so I think I'm not sure how many guys have the upside of an Anton Harrison this year in the Big 12. Then Trevor Downing from Iowa State. Also on my list. So guys, kind of names that we know that have been around and others like a lot.
Yeah. So we actually have the same list except for one. Take out person from TCU and I put in Connor Beebe from Kansas State. Obviously, I'm not an offensive line wizard, but I do have a friend. His name is Gabe Eichert. He played at Oklahoma. He's pretty good. I ran this by him. He said thumbs up. So that's fine. And he also said, I asked him, if I were to put an Oklahoma player on the list, who would it be? He said Anton Harrison. So I'm happy we both put him on as well, because this is a list I just don't have the most knowledge about. You don't really have stats behind him. I really went with snaps, and that's why I think even if you want to put more Baylor people on here, you could.
Yeah.
But yeah, Connor Galvin, I from what I've heard and what I've seen, is the best in the league. So he has to be on no matter your list. The rest up for interpretation.
Yeah, Baylor's, they've got a lot of experience returning on the offensive line. It does not always mean there will be always, the entire offensive line is first team, right?
8,000 snaps, 8,000 combined snaps.
Now, remember, they were horrible in 2020, right? Really better last year, probably outperformed. So maybe not a regression, but maybe same level as last year, maybe a little bit lower. Let's see what they do this year. On defense, defensive line, Siaki Ika, Dante Stills, Felix and Duke Uzama, Colin Oliver, and Will McDonald. Robbie, do you have any variation?
Nope. We have the same exact list for that. And I think if you're putting someone else there, it's sure, but I think these are by far the best 5 in the league. I tried to see if I could take out Dante Stills to put in Brock Martin of Oklahoma State. I did not have a good argument for it. He could be on the list as well. Yes. But I think these are the 5 that you need to put on. And if you don't have Felix, McDonald, or Ika in there, you are just trying a little too hard. Those are the people you need to have.
This one wasn't too hard. This one wasn't too hard for me on the defensive line thing.
I think that was the easiest part. The easiest part of this whole thing.
Linebacker this conference is a crapshoot, right? I mean, I would be surprised if DeMarvion Overshown doesn't end up on this list, right? Mm-hmm. And probably, I know people like Daniel Green a lot too. Somebody has to fill the role of Baylor. I think people, believe Dylan Doyle will. I mentioned Danny Stutzman before. People think he's going to have a really nice season. I know Ryan Vance at Iowa State has got some consideration as well. D Winters at TCU is a really good player. And so, there a lot of directions you could go here with this, but I ended up on DeMarvion Overshown, who I think is a really good player and I think has a big season this year. Daniel Green and Dylan Doyle. That's where I ended up with my 3 linebackers.
Yeah, I maybe messed this up. I did not put Overshown on, but I didn't want to give Texas really that much credit on the defensive side just because it wasn't there. I have the other 2, but I put Danny Stutzman for Oklahoma just because if an Oklahoma player were to do it, I think it would have to be a linebacker or Brent Venables as your head coach. So I put Danny Stutzman there as just a projection pick. I know we're supposed to put the best players. I broke the rules for that. I put a projection pick and I put Danny Stutzman there, but I mean, like I've said this before, but the linebacker and defensive backs here, like there are some sure I think defensive backs are a little bit more sure, but man, like this league looks so much different than last year when it comes to this talent. Like and it's not in a good way.
At defensive backs, so Travius Tomlinson Hodges has to be on there. Travius Hodges Tomlinson, excuse me, because he was on there last year, obviously. Jason Taylor at safety and Kenny Logan to me are pretty easy. Kenny Logan, people know about him, but he's very good. Jason Taylor, obviously last year, kind of overshadowed, I guess, in that defense, right? Especially when you play next to a guy like Colby Harvell-Peel, you get overshadowed just a little bit, but we know he should be on there, definitely. The corners are tough, the other 2. So Julius Brents is like 6'4" and used to play safety, I think, actually at Iowa State. And, is one of those hybrid defensive backs they can use. I put him on there because he's got good potential, a pretty good season last year. Then Woody Washington, another high potential guy, really good athlete, a little bit smaller at 5'11", but I think he's got potential this year in this defense to have a really awesome season. And that's why I have him there, over a guy maybe like an Eko Boye-Doe from Kansas State, or, maybe over somebody else like a Charles Woods from West Virginia or Deshaun Jameson from Texas. That's why I went with Woody Washington from Oklahoma on my list there. So Hodges, Tomlinson, Brents, Washington, Taylor, Logan, but this is another position, Robbie, where, there's some names I feel good about on here, but the corner spot to me is the one where we've got some questions that need to be answered outside of Travius Hodges Tomlinson, I think.
Yep. So I have the same list except for 2. I do not have Julius Brents or Woody Washington. I may have messed up on the Woody Washington one just because I know a lot of Oklahoma people and they're high on him, but I'm just not as sure. I have Al Walcott from Baylor, and this is kind of a projection pick as well with Jalen Petrie being gone. I've done my research on him, and I'm projecting him to have a good season for them. 27 tackles last year, 3 interceptions. You may know him. He had the pick 6 against Ole Miss and the Sugar Bowl. So I see him there, and I had Charles Woods from West Virginia as well. So I just feel like I needed a player from Baylor in the secondary just because I'm projecting them so high. But this
think it goes to show, though, it's like, nobody can fault you for it. And that's why the defense, besides the defensive line, like there's a lot of different ways you could go with this.
So here's a question for you is, who do you think will have the best defense in the Big 12 this year? Which team do you think will, by the end of the year, will have the most players on the first team?
I think Kansas State's got a really good shot to do it. Like Robbie, you might end up having your Kansas State Wildcats make this run, because I think I'm talking myself into it. Yeah. Once again, if they had Skylar Thompson quarterback, different story. I know people like Adrian Martinez, and he's a quarterback of the best 3-9 team ever, whatever. Blah. Like, still really worried about him. I think Kansas State's got a really good shot to have the most guys in there. Although here's the thing, there is a world in which we see Colin Oliver, Brock Martin, Tyler Lacey, Jason Taylor. Like, I think Oklahoma State's got a really good shot to have a bunch of guys on this list as well. So, I think it's weird to say, but I actually think there's a really good chance that we see Oklahoma State, and there's lost a lot of guys I know, Oklahoma State and Kansas State, I think are the two that we have a good chance of seeing four guys on this list, maybe. What do you think?
I think you have to throw in Baylor there as well. I think I may, obviously Oklahoma fans do not necessarily like me just because I'm a little bit more skeptical of everything, but I think by the end of the year, I hope that we see some more people that we didn't know and we're like, oh, he's really good. I think that's a team that could just kind of shine. And I just think that's a team that we're a little bit uncertain of just because so many moving pieces. But I think by the end of the year, we're going to be like, oh, Oklahoma actually had some players waiting in the weeds. So that's a team I'm high on as well. But I think defensively, I know that Texas, well, not no, but if I were to project who would have the best offense, I think it's Texas. I don't necessarily know on defense who would be that team where I can fully be like, yep, that's going to be the best one.
All right. One more word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Major League Baseball season is in full swing. You guys can go there at BetOnline and BetOnline.net today to get in on the action. Also, you guys can wager on who will win the Big 12 in 2022. They have odds for that available now at BetOnline and BetOnline.net. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, Robbie, appreciate you. Where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
SiriusXM Big 12 Radio. We are in summer mode, so one show per day from 7 to 10 Central. Tune us in, channel 375. Good time. And I'm back from vacation after a 2-week hiatus, and so it's time for Big 12 take season. Follow me below at the Triano Kid on Twitter. You may love me, you may hate me, but you will respect me.
There you go. You guys can find me on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_. You guys can find the show at LO Big 12, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube as well. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. And Robbie, thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you, man.